All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Ferguson, and I am the co-founder and president of ESROC Brain Trust Association. And we are delighted to have you with us this evening. Our mission is to provide economic opportunity, growth, and sustainability to underserved communities through the local church, faith, and community-based organizations. And so we're delighted to have this esteemed panel with us this evening. And we hope that you have a good time because we certainly are going to have a great time. We have experts that's going to battle and discuss some very pertinent topics about being productive, profitable, and even being healthy in the midst of a pandemic and an economic crisis. So whether you're tuning in through Zoom or Facebook Live or YouTube, we're just glad that you decided to join this discussion. And so with no further ado, I just want to introduce our esteemed moderator who will in turn introduce our panel. So Zanetta Smith, let me tell you a little bit about her. So she was named as 2019 Biddy Mason Unsung Shero Award by the Women's Group of Greater Los Angeles County and 2018 Rising Champion by Holman Community Development Corporation. Zanetta Smith is a fierce social worker. As founder of Color Society, a social club for millennials and Generation X of the African diaspora, Zanetta is committed to increasing connections. When she is not working, she is traveling and eating Italian food. With no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present to some and introduce to others our moderator for the evening, Zanetta Smith.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited to join you all today. I know it's a lot going on in the world. If you, like me, are located in Los Angeles, then there were protests today. And so it's just a lot of energy happening. And so I want to thank you for taking this evening out to join us for this panel to really be fed on what the bounce back is looking like as states open up, as cities open up, as governors and councilmen and mayors have conflict on what opening up looks like and where we are. We have an esteemed panel that's going to be talking about health, wealth, and fitness and how we are all bouncing back during this time. Because if we're following health professionals, we know that COVID-19 may be here for a while. So it's about how are we pivoting, how are we being flexible, and how are we dealing with that? So I don't want to delay anymore because I'm excited to hear from everyone. And so I'm so excited to introduce you to Yvette Ellis, who is an impactful and thought-provoking workforce developer. She's also the Chief Workforce Officer and co-founder of Charger Health, and she's mastered all aspects of workforce development. She also serves as the career coach for the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator, also known as LACY. She's passionate about diversity and inclusion and helping underrepresented professionals move their careers in the direction they dream of with the salary they deserve. Don't we all need that right about now? Mm-hmm. So I want to welcome Yvette Ellis. Yvette.
Hey.
Hi.
I'm so excited to be here. This is so fun. Okay.
I'm just excited to have you and be talking to you. As a fellow workforce developer, I'm excited what you have to say for all of us in different positions, those who have been laid off, those who are looking for employment. I know people who had just resigned from their jobs and was transferring to new jobs right when COVID started. So I'm really excited to hear about your perspective. So let's jump into it.
Let's go.
Okay, first question. Over 33 million people have applied for unemployment. Is there a silver lining to this, or is it just all bad?
That's a tricky question because it's all in perspective. But if I had to say there is a silver lining, then I would say it is this. The silver lining is that I would say more than half of those who's filed unemployment in the last 3 months has filed up under temporary unemployment. So if I had to find one, I would say that at least we're still in the temporary. Of course, we don't know what the backlash of COVID-19 and the economy shutting down will actually be. Nobody knows. You know, I'm hopeful. I'm a believer, so I believe God can turn it around. But as we are right now, most of the layoffs have been temporary. There was a survey that was done in April, and at that time, 9 out of 10 people that filed for unemployment believe that it was temporary. So, you know, half of the battle is in the mind, right? Us believing and being optimistic and hopeful about what's going on. But because it was temporary layoffs, most people believe that they will go back, which gives us the idea that we could possibly be looking at a V versus a M, right? We dip low and we're going to come back up as states start to open up. Jobs will start to open up. Of course, we have to get past our comfort level when it comes to COVID and being safe and all the little fine things that different entities are developing. But I believe that if the layoffs right now are predominantly temporary, then I'm hopeful that we will, you know, spike up as the state starts to open. Also, you know, retail was hit very hard. Hospitality was hit very hard. So we may feel a lag. And that's another silver lining. It's not a no, it just may be a lag until people are comfortable again traveling and going out to eat and enjoying themselves. And right now, for some of us, we can't even see it. We can't even imagine, you know, getting on an airplane or going to a hotel. But as things start to progress, and then medically, as things get better, the testing and the antibody test, and as we start really taking advantage of the tools that we have, I think people will slowly start to progress. I think the economy will get better. How long that will take is the question. Right? It may not be in 6 months. We may not see that overnight. However, as long as the people that are currently laid off feel like it's temporary, then we're working with something, you know, because it's their mind and hearts that will really determine how this goes.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. So we can see and hear from your bio, those that follow Yvette, that she has been quite busy during this pandemic, building businesses, expanding. So in your professional opinion, what can people do during this season to prepare to re-enter the workforce?
I have a little list here. You know how your computer just shuts down when you need it.
Exactly.
So isn't that just what happens? So I listed 6 things that I just think people should ponder and at least do 1 or 2 of them. One is e-learning and professional development. So whether you're taking classes to get better in the trade or the field, the industry that you currently work in. If you're interested, there's all kind of training programs, classes, e-courses right now, and some that would normally not be just as available as they are right now, you can take. I've seen free ones from some really great learning institutes, and I'll list some in the chat area when I'm done in case anybody wants to grab those. But I would say e-courses are a big deal right now. You know, there's this digital flyer going around Instagram and it says like, if you don't learn something new in this pandemic, you wasted your time. I'm not necessarily a fan of that because it's a pandemic, right? People are dealing, who knows? I'm not saying that. I will say this, if you are one that is not dealing that way, there are some other things that you can do with your time. I personally spent a nice bit of the pandemic dealing what is happening right now. And so I don't want to shame people that didn't spend this 2 or 3 months, you know, taking a class or learning a new skill. You know, this was an adjustment and quite scary. So I want to give grace to those who didn't decide to use their time that way. But I want to say this, it's not too late if you decided you want to take a class or to do something constructive with your time. Not to say that resting isn't, because that was a great bit of my time. Another thing is I suggest creating a vision or business board, especially if you've been unemployed. And I know sometimes it's hard to just get up and a vision board. What are you talking about? I don't have a job. But it's all in your perspective. And when I say vision board, I'm not saying go spend a lot of money. I'm saying maybe a quick piece of paper and pen and write down, like, really, what do you want to do? Really, what don't you really want to do? And it's not to say that you'll have that opportunity tomorrow, but at least mentally you have an idea of where you would like to go. And I always say, if you don't know where you want to go, then if the opportunity arose, you wouldn't even know that that was it, because we spend so much time working and going. So it's okay to dream a little and imagine a little what you would like to do. So I think you should spend some time doing that. If you want to start a business, if you have an entrepreneurial spirit, spend time working on that business. And again, that doesn't mean the business is going to take off tomorrow. I happen to be a part of a business that did. And I was like, whoa, I wasn't ready for this to take off the way it did. But I would say we've been working on this for quite a while. This just happened to be the season that it took off. Read. I'll list some books that I just think are great books to really apply to your life. Some of the principles and practices that they may offer, not everything. I'm not an everything person, but some great professional development books that you can read. 2 more. Revise, renew your resume, your portfolio, your LinkedIn, your email, get that all organized and together. I cannot tell you how many times I see people sending in emails that have not been updated, the grammatical errors and wrong references and wrong addresses. Those things matter. Using buzz and keywords, and maybe even spending time filling out those long applications for maybe like government agencies or hospitals that take you 2 days to finish. Go ahead and spend some time doing that. And the last thing is get social. Get on LinkedIn. It's all kinds of virtual happy hours and virtual, and to be on a virtual happy hour don't mean you have to drink. I just want to be clear about that. You can get on there and talk to people and socialize with folks. So get on those virtual happy hours, talk to people that you wouldn't normally maybe get an opportunity to exchange words with, learn about the industry that you're in or the one that you want to be a part of, and get some new contacts.
Yay!
Yay.
What book are you reading right now?
Essentialism.
Okay.
And out of all things, with the whole word essential that we keep using over and over, I'm reading Essentialism. So it's really about narrowing down to like really what is the bare basics of what you need to function. And it's been really interesting because most of the time we have what we need.
Yeah. I am a minimalist, so
I am not.
With what I need. Only with what I need, and it's made my life really easy.
Yeah.
I'm reading the 22 Immutable Laws of Branding right now. And I know that you pride yourself in personal branding. You really believe in that. So why is this important for employees, entrepreneurs, and students who are graduating?
Well, before I get to that, I think personal branding, whether you believe it or not, accept it or not, we've been doing this for a long time before it became a thing. Whatever your reputation was, when we were in high school and in college, your reputation preceded you, right? And the same thing happens in the business world, in the workforce. Your personal brand is who you are. It is those core things that you not only live by, but work by. So for me, I have learned 2 things about myself. One thing is that I love and I like and I know how to make people laugh. And the second thing is I'm pretty direct. So I took those things and I built those into my personal brand. So no matter what I'm doing, whether I'm facilitating, coaching, if I'm doing something with ministry at my church, you probably are going to see those 2 characteristics show up in all of my work and everything I do, because that is my personal brand. So personal branding, and I talk about this in other webinars if you ever want to learn more about it, but personal branding is just what are those things that you are, that you want to almost, if something had to be stamped on your head, What would people say about you? And of course, we know social media now, when you're looking for a job, or growing in your career, now people even check your social media when you apply for a job. So those wild nights, you just can't post them anymore. They really do affect you eventually. And private is just not private. So you think it's private. I've seen people for somehow, some way, figure it out, and they're making decisions about your livelihood. So I strongly suggest, especially to my younger folks, make sure that your social media is clean. I've seen it. My husband works with high schoolers. He's a football coach, and I've seen when it's time for them to head off to school, they're checking those social medias before they give those scholarships out as well. So I definitely think what you put on your social media is extremely important. And if it's not you, remind another person or young person to be very careful with that.
Nice. So COVID-19 has really upended what people thought was secure, right? Mm-hmm. We have the mayor of LA who put out his budget that said that all of the employees would be furloughed a certain number of days within the next fiscal year. And those were the safe jobs, right? City job, get you a job with the city, stay in it forever. You got your good benefits.
Yeah.
So it's just really upended what we thought was security. And so how can people stay inspired with all of that, knowing that this will be around for a while, knowing that some of us like me will be working from home probably for a while. There are some people that may never go back into the office because their businesses may not be able to afford to keep office space. So how does one stay inspired with all this uncertainty?
Well, I have to be honest. The first thing is you have to make a choice that you want to be inspired. You know, this idea that we could just walk around and something will just inspire us. You know, you have to make a choice that you want to be inspired. For some, once you've made that choice, for some, it's going to be your faith. For some, it's going to be your children and your spouse and your family. For some, you'll find a new road or a new wave in your employment, in your job, and the way you do things that will inspire you. For me, it can be Pinterest, you know, finding other interests. And I got this newfound thing for decorating. So that's my little happy place, and it inspires me right now. So we may have to think out of the box a little bit. We definitely can't look at the news looking for inspiration, or we can't look at EDD looking for inspiration. We're gonna have to dig a little bit further, and you have to make a choice to be optimistic, a choice to be hopeful. You're gonna have to find those silver linings. You know, I'm trying to just think like that. You know, if I hear a group of bad news, I'm like, let me find one thing good with this bad news, and I'm gonna run with it. So inspiration is also very fleeting. You may feel inspired today and hear something or go through something and not be so inspired tomorrow. So I definitely think one thing you can do, again, keep reading, keep your imagination open. Especially as adults, we get very bogged down with real life situations. So I encourage people to find an escape somewhere in their reading, with their family, quiet time, turn off your phone. You have to dig for inspiration.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. You know, for everybody's in a different place right now, and I think you hit on so many great things, whether we're working, whether we're temporarily unemployed, whether we are pursuing our dreams, pursuing businesses, pivoting businesses. So thank you so much for dropping that knowledge with us. Anyone who's listening, all of our attendees, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop those questions in the chat for Yvette. If someone has a question right now, we can ask Yvette real quick. And if not, you can continue to drop it in the chat, and we will be back with Yvette at the end, and she will answer any questions. Yvette, maybe you can drop that list or a link to that list in the chat, and then also drop in the chat how we can follow you.
Yep.
And keep in touch, especially with your business and your endeavors.
Thank you. It was an honor.
Thank you. All right, everyone. So you got your workforce tips, whether you are looking for a job, whether you are maintaining a job, whether you know you have to get another one. If you want to pursue your dreams, pursue that business. Yvette gave us some great tips. There are a lot of e-courses. There are a lot of books to read. So we just have to decide that that's what we want to do, and we have to just do it. All right, so while we are just doing it with the professional development and self-investment, now we're gonna go to physical health, because as we have seen, COVID-19 is a virus, which means that our bodies can be strong enough to fight. We just have to have the right things in place. And so I want to introduce you to Dr. Erica McCool and Kenneth Hahn. I'm going to read their bios. Dr. Erica McCool is a physical therapist, fitness enthusiast, and educator. She has provided education and teaching on various topics ranging from fall prevention, stroke education, body mechanics, and ergonomics. Erica has served as the leader for Compassion in Action Homeless Ministry. She has also extended her contributions to additional outreach initiatives, working on medical teams for the Chicago Marathon and participating in medical missions in Haiti, Dominican Republic, the Honduras, and Nigeria. In her spare time, Erica enjoys volunteering, hiking, working out, traveling, and spending time with her family, including her husband and her son. Kenneth Hahn has a 12-year, 130-pound weight loss journey. He was simply tired of watching everyone else live their lives from the sidelines. He was tired of wearing size 46 pants. Safe to say he was at rock bottom. So he walked into his very first boxing gym, fell in love with the sport 12 years later, and he has never looked back. He says he owes everything in his life to boxing, his career, his physique, his confidence, and his happiness. Now he wants to use the sport of boxing to help others realize that anything is possible if they're just willing to fight for it. Everyone help me welcome Dr. Erica McCool and Kenneth Hahn.
What's going on, guys?
I hope you all are well during this time.
Yes, I am. How about you?
Good, I am well.
Awesome.
So I have the first question for you. Why is physical health important during COVID-19, especially for people of color?
Go ahead.
Okay, cool. I think number one, I know this is a subject surrounding like during the pandemic, but this should be a concern all year round, all the time. So that's number one. Number two, I think just because we are in a quarantine, you know, we are adapting to a situation that we're not used to. So, you know, we're not going outside, we're staying home, which means that we're a lot more sedentary. We're sitting down a lot. We're not moving as much. And that can bring some version of depression, you know, especially if you lost your job, you know, if you have other family members that aren't doing well. So, you know, just a lot of different factors that can just kind of bring your mood down. And, you know, I think lack of movement really contributes to people's emotions and feelings. And so I think that's a really important reason why, you know, the more you move, you can really keep your mood up more than, you know, looking better or, you know, fitting into better clothes. This is just purely about like, not just your physical health, but also your emotional health, specifically during COVID.
Awesome. Dr. Erica?
Yes, and to piggyback off of that, especially when it comes to African Americans and people of color, we're more prone to different comorbidities like hypertension, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. And so if we're not moving, 9 times out of 10, those things are not going to change. For example, high blood pressure. If you're sitting there, you're stressed out. If you're not moving and getting your body moving, then your blood pressure is probably going to tend to rise because you're sitting there. As Kenneth mentioned, we're not being as active because we're being forced to stay at home. So one of the biggest benefits of moving right now is getting out and helping us to improve not only, like he mentioned, our mental capacity, but also our physical capacity. Because if you're sitting, then 9 times out of 10, we're snacking, we're eating, which of course is going to cause us to gain weight, and then also maybe leading to a way to deal with our stress. We may be doing more comfort eating. So getting out and being more active is going to help us to control things like diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, etc.
Yeah. What has inspired both of you to commit to physical fitness, and how has it improved your productivity?
Okay, so we'll just kind of go, keep the cadence going. So I'll go first. For me, it was just, I was very overweight until I was about 25, which I think I capped out around like 320 pounds. Aside from, you know, just the physical, just aside from not, you know, maybe wanting to physically look better, just emotionally, you're just so taxed and mentally just drained, because when you're not at your best health, when you're not feeling the best, we tend not to perform well, whether it's at our job, whether it's with friends and family. We tend to want to kind of retreat and be by ourselves, which also could, cause depression, which can really a lot of times will lead into overeating, and that overeating will usually eventually just spiral into just a black hole that it's going to be very hard to retract from. So that was my reason for wanting to change, and and obviously, if we want to experience life more, we need to be healthy, and just everyday things that people were able to do that I wasn't able to do. I really wanted to do, like, such as, like, I couldn't go to movie theater and fit into a regular seat, or go to a ball game and feel comfortable sitting next to people. So and really just messes with your self-confidence, and I think in order for us to thrive in this world in any aspect, whether it's work, whether it's friends and family, relationships, we want to present the strongest and most confident version of ourselves. So that was my reason. That's what inspired me to get into health and fitness.
Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
Okay, Dr. Erica, what inspires you to stay committed, and then how has it improved your productivity?
I would say for me, is seeing my patients, seeing patients that would come into the hospital and it was because they, need healthy or had high blood pressure. And so I just thought a lot of diseases that could that probably be avoided if it was just someone sticking to a regular routine of exercise and diet. Also just feeling sluggish after eating certain meals and not being active, just not having any energy. And that's one thing that exercise provided for me, was giving me more energy, giving me more stamina, and allowing me to be more active as far as doing my job. I definitely think it helps improve the productivity, because after working out, I tend to feel more focused. And that's one of the things that exercise has been proven to do, is it improves our attention span and our memory. So typically after workout, you have the release of endorphins, and you'll feel even more energized to complete those tasks you need to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, full disclosure, I hate working out. Absolutely hate it. I hate running. I hate breathing hard. I hate sweating. It's just so uncomfortable. But I love the feeling I get after a good run, after a good jog, after a good yoga class. Just the ability, even for me, it calms me down, really calms my nerves, and I'm able to deal with tension a lot better. Tension and anxiety a lot better if I'm regularly exercising. So thank you for that. So with COVID-19, a lot of people went to gyms. I myself belong to an athletic club. So I was going to the athletic club probably 5 days a week. I've had to really adjust my physical health schedule based on the things I have at home, local parks. I discovered a fitness trail in my neighborhood that I didn't even know existed before COVID-19, because I was never home to begin with. And so what type of adjustments have you all made in your exercise routine?
Me personally, my background is boxing, so I've been doing a lot of shadow boxing, which requires absolutely no equipment, and if done properly with the right amount of time and intensity, it will give you a great sweat. And in conjunction with that, I've been using a lot of kettlebells. You only need about 1 or 2 at max, and there's so many different exercises that you can do with them. And primarily, there's only about 6 of them that you really need to do to get in a great workout. And so I've been doing that about 20 to 30 minutes twice a day. That's how I've been adjusting. I was thinking about going out to the parks, but just out of caution from all the germs and the what's going on right now, I have been avoiding public parks just because other people are touching and using the equipment. So I personally been staying away from it.
Okay, Dr. Erica.
So for me, I have really enjoyed getting outside and going for a walk. I'm like you, I used to be in the gym at least 4 to 5 times a week, do my classes, loved all of those things. But this is really forced, I think everyone who wants to be active to get outdoors and to go walking in their neighborhoods or going to parks. So for me, that's one of the things that I have really had to adjust to, is no longer being go to a gym, but going outside and just getting fresh air and doing things outside. Also, I think thanks to technology, there's so many classes now that are offered online. And you can go on Instagram, you can follow different trainers that are offering different classes, and even on Facebook. And I even started a group called Fit for Life, where I do an exercise class twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it's just a way, again, to create community and encourage people to keep moving. Even though we're inside our houses, we can still do things inside our homes to be active.
I love that. Yeah, there's so many resources. And I have a favorite person for yoga that I've been using consistently throughout COVID on YouTube. That's been great. She has a yoga position, yoga poses, yoga video for anything: anxiety, lack of sleep, stress. So it's been great. So what recommendations would you give people that don't have a normal routine? How could they today, after this webinar, jumpstart their physical fitness journey?
I think that, especially if you aren't used to doing it and don't like doing it, the best way to get it done is to do it first thing in the morning. Because the longer the day goes along, the chances of you actually doing the exercise is going to get less and less and less, and your willpower will start to dwindle around probably after lunchtime or after you're done with work. You're like, okay, cool, I'm too tired, like I'm just going to chill. So I would definitely say, it doesn't even have to be a lot. I know a lot of times, people look at these infomercials and Instagram people and everybody's sweating, and most of the time they're oiled up anyways. Okay. So it's not really about intensity versus consistency. So I think the most important thing is to set a goal. Okay, I'm going to do this 3 times a week. As soon as I wake up, literally, if you're really starting from ground zero, I'm just going to do 1 lap around my block. And once you can build, it's really about habit, So if you can build that habit, I'm going to walk around my block as soon as I wake up 3 times a week, and then you build on it. So next week, I'm going to do it 4 times, maybe the following week, I'll do it 5 times. And then you can build, okay, now I'm going to do it twice around my block 5 times. So once you start to build that habit, it will start to turn into other things as well too. So it's really about building a foundational habit, being consistent, and not worry so much about intensity and results. If you can just focus on building the habit, I truly believe that will give you the results that you want, whether it's mentally and physically.
Awesome. Dr. Erica?
Yeah, I would just say start where you are. So if you've never worked out before, don't try to do exercise for 60 minutes. It's not realistic. Start with saying, I'm going to commit to 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day. And then find something you enjoy. Like you mentioned, you like yoga. awesome. If you like yoga, if you like dancing, playing music in your house, we're going to dance for 10 minutes. It's finding what you can do that you enjoy. And before you know it, you've done 10, 20 minutes of it. I also really urge people to encourage people to have an accountability partner. I think we have someone that's checking on you and you're meeting up together. That also keeps you to stay more motivated. You know this person is counting on you to work out with them. So finding someone that you can say, hey, check on me today. Let's go for a walk together. Let's make sure we keep each other accountable, so we're making sure we're staying active. So I would say start where you are, 5 or 10 minutes, find something you enjoy, and then get an accountability partner as well.
I love the realistic advice.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes.
Okay. I have something what I call Netflix and Move. It's just a catchy term, but what that really means is right now there's so many podcasts, there's so many audio books or audio book services that you can subscribe to, or just purely free YouTube videos that you can learn something from, and literally just turn that on and then go for a walk. So it really, you're just increasing your productivity and doing two things. You move your body and you get to learn something, so you feel even more productive. So I feel like that's something that I love to do. And I think that's something free and practical that you can actually start today.
I love it. Okay, so start where you are. Don't overdo it. It's about consistency and Netflix and Move.
Netflix and Move.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Erica, and thank you, Ken, for giving us knowledge about how we can improve and stick to our physical health during this time. I now want to introduce us to Dr. Hanson, who's going to be talking about mental health and wellness. Dr. Hanson is a doctor of clinical psychology from the Los Angeles campus of the Chicago School of Professional Psychology and a candidate for the Psychoanalytic Institute for Psychoanalysis. Dr. Hanson works from a transpersonal and spiritual framework and a psychoanalytic framework. Dr. Hanson focuses on transcendence of the ego as it affects quality of life and in treating the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. Dr. Hanson's goal in therapy is to bring awareness to the unconscious as it relates to decisions and patterns, address unresolved conflict, and strengthen the ego so that one is able to transcend beyond ego to the higher self. Welcome, Dr. Hanson.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Can you talk a little louder for us because you sound a little far away?
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you better now.
Okay, I'll just speak closer.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. With your background in psychology, maybe you can start to tell us what is psychology and what is mental health and why is it important?
Okay, so I'll start with that. But the first thing I wanted to say is that I work from a spirit, mind, and body perspective. So I know you're thinking like, no, I said it. You did say the correct words, but in a different order.
Got it.
To me, the spirit is first, then the mind, and then the body.
Got it.
I work from that perspective. So spirit, God, and then mind, psychoanalysis, and then body is in somatic. So
thank you.
I'll give you a little bit of history about like what psychology is, because I think that it's hard for people to really understand like mental health and how to like take care of themselves without understanding like exactly what psychology is. So psychology is the study of mental processes and behavior, all behavior, and it actually, psychology has its roots in Egypt. So the first psychological experiment was conducted in 1700 BC. The first psychologists come from ancient Egypt. So a lot of there's a misunderstanding that psychology, it was created by white people, and it wasn't. Actually, the African ancient Egyptians were the first to do it. And so what happened was that Freud came in and he developed this psychoanalytic model. But so that's a misunderstanding as well, that psychology, that Freud is the father of psychology, and he is not. And when God created human beings, that is when psychology evolved. What Freud did was they took the model from Egypt and then brought it to like Western civilization, and then they just put labels to what was already happening, which was human behavior, psychoanalytic, the unconscious mind, all of that was already happening. And so what happened was that from there was this psychoanalytic model that was created. Psychology derives from psychiatry because the first psychologists and psychoanalysts were psychiatrists. And so, what else can I say? The field of psychology consists of transpersonal, spiritual, social, forensics, organizational, community, marriage and family therapy. So it embodies a lot. What a psychologist does is, first of all, psychologists go to school for a total of 10 years. So every psychologist has a bachelor's, a master's, and a doctorate degree in psychology. I have a total of 3 degrees: doctorate in psychology, master's in psychology, and bachelor's in psychology. And then I have 2 years in psychoanalysis. I attended the Psychoanalytic Institute. And so I did a total of 12 years of college education. So I'm a little worn out.
Understandably so. But so that that's really good to highlight, because I think a lot of people don't talk about like the mental health of schooling enough, right? And so maybe you can give a little bit about what you did to get how did you handle your mental health through all of that schooling?
Well, it takes ego strength in order to be able to complete school in the first place. So I think I just have a strong ego, and then I'm very determined and ambitious. So if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I set a goal, I complete it. Then I come from an educated background, so I think it was easier for me. My mom has like 2 masters from UCLA, and I come from my siblings went to college, my cousins, my uncles, my aunts. So it was easy for me to be able to do school. Like in my family, everybody goes to school. So it's not really a big deal if you do, in a sense. It's like almost expected. So, and I've always been like very, very into the mind and the psyche and how things work and what causes people to do certain things and where that stems from. So I think that passion is what got me through.
That's good. What common trends behaviorally is this pandemic eliciting from people?
Well, for one, it's evening the scoreboard. So like everyone's the same right now. Everyone's at home. Everyone is highly stressed. Everyone's a bit anxious. Everyone's a little edgy. Everyone is wearing a mask. So we kind of all look the same in a sense. You can't really see people's facial expressions when they have a mask on. You can't see their mouth, their features. You don't know who you're talking to. We're all like kind of at the grocery stores or wherever we're going, and we're wearing masks. So it takes away from a lot of assumptions that can be made. And it just creates like this rawness of like, you're this person, you're that, you need this service, you're doing that. I think it's creating a little bit more empathy in some people, like, gosh, we're all in this together. We're all at home. We're all bored. We all need an activity to participate in. We're all everyone's a little sad. Everyone's a little, ready to get out and do something. So I think we're all celebrities, everyone, we're all going through the same thing. We're all going through this together.
Yeah. So we also noticed that there's a lot of anxiety rising. I think Ken mentioned this a minute, that he wanted to go to the park, but kind of fearful of going to the park because of all the germs, right? So it's like, do I go outside? Do I go to the park? What's going to happen when I go to the grocery store? Is this mask enough? What if people aren't staying 6 feet? Will I still have my job when this is over? Will I be able to get another job when this is over? Will I be able to stay in my apartment through this? Will I be able to keep my house? Will my house have to go in foreclosure? Just so many things to worry about. And so how can people manage their anxiety during this pandemic?
Okay, how I would look at that is, if I was to like advise someone about anxiety, the first thing I will look at is, what is your genetics? Like what is the DNA with you? Like, what kind of parents did you have? Do you come from a high strung family? Because the temperament that you are born with is your natural temperament. And then what happens is that society gets a hold of you, you have experiences, and then it can change, alter you a bit. Trauma can alter your brain. So a lot of people are not within their true temperament that they were born with, and certain situations or environments or people that they interact with will kind of naturally bring that out of them. But the first thing I would want to know is, like, what was your temperament as a baby? Do you know any information about that? Because if you're born with higher cortisol levels, then you're going to naturally be anxious. If you come from a very high strung family, you'll naturally be anxious. If you come from a certain environment, or you live in a certain neighborhood, or you're experiencing stress at work, you're going to be like more anxious. Also, I would want to know, like, if you're experiencing anxiety now during this pandemic, that's pretty normal. We're all experiencing some level of anxiety. Everybody, even mental health professionals, we're all experiencing some level of anxiety. So that's the normalcy in it. I think that developing some sort of like techniques, like cognitive techniques right now, will help with anxiety. For example, monitoring your heart rate. Mm-hmm. That helps with anxiety. A lot of people aren't aware that your heart rate is directly connected to your emotional state. So every time you have a positive thought, your heart rate goes down. When you have a negative thought, when you are experiencing stress or negativity, your heart rate, or just getting out of your car and going into your home, carrying groceries, that raises your heart rate. So monitoring your heart rate will help you understand anything over 75 is considered high. So how do you monitor your heart rate? Well, you can do it with the Apple Watch. There's I wrote it down too. There's an app that you can download that will monitor your heart rate, and it's called, I'll write it in the box.
Okay.
But you put your finger on this part of your phone, just like that, and it monitors your heart rate in real time.
Wow.
So that helps. There's cognitive journals that you can download, apps that you can download. There's a cognitive companion app that you can download. And I know that might seem corny to some people, but it really does lower your anxiety levels in real time. Now, it's temporary, okay? Because like I said, if genetically you are naturally anxious, that is just going to band-aid it, because you're probably going to need some type of like mental health treatment if you have like an anxiety disorder. But if you're just experiencing normal anxiety, because everyone experiences anxiety, then those little, the cognitive techniques like monitoring your heart rate, downloading like the cognitive companion app. Also, you can lower your heart rate by breathing for like 60 seconds. So just taking a deep breath in, inhaling, and then exhaling. That can lower your heart rate about 10 points.
Wow.
10 points. And grounding, there's another technique that you can use. It's called grounding, whereas you sit on a chair and you put both feet in front of you and you kind of like grip the ground in a sense. That can lower your heart rate. That can lower your level of anxiety. So that's all you can do right now.
Well, thank you so much for dropping those gems of what we can do right now to really help us, whether it be grounding, monitoring our heart rate, downloading the cognitive companion app, really even just checking our heart rate to make sure that we're okay and we're keeping calm. I think that's all important right now. So if anyone has questions for Dr. Hanson, just drop it in the chat and we'll ask Dr. Hanson later. And Dr. Hanson, maybe in the chat, you can drop for us that cognitive companion app, the heart rate app, and any breathing exercises that you know or you're familiar with that we can really incorporate into our practice that will really connect, as you said, our spirit, our mind, and our body. Also, where we can find you and follow you if we want to connect with you more. So thank you, Dr. Hanson.
Thank you.
All right, next we're going to talk about financial health and wealth, money, money, money. we're going to hear from Nick Goucher and Kane Nicholas. Nick Goucher is a man on a mission. He's been recognized by Mortgage Executive Magazine as the top 1% mortgage banker in America for 3 consecutive years. In his career, Nick has personally funded over $300 million as a loan originator to 900 plus clients, and now serves as Senior VP and Managing Partner at Legacy Home Loans in an effort to build the largest Black-owned mortgage company in America. He is a father of 2 beautiful girls and has been married 10 years. Kane Nicholas is the principal and founder of Able Consulting, LLC. After serving for several years in the global financial sector with leading professional firms, Kane started Able Consulting in 2013. While consulting, he taught on the college level and advised on training and coaching in the strategic and operational aspects of management, change, marketing, and client relationship management. Kane currently holds Series 7, Series 66, and all insurance licenses, allowing him to provide services in investments, asset protections, we all know that's important, and income gap solutions in the state of California, Georgia, and Massachusetts. Okay, Kane, we see you. Kane resides in San Pedro with his wonderful wife and 2 daughters. So I'm excited to talk about money, wealth, and just securing my assets tonight with Kane and Nick. All right, first question. So how are we defining financial health?
Well, first, I'd like to thank all the organizers, Ezra Brain Trust, for having me on this particular panel. This panel has been amazing. The 360 view on how we approach this conversation is not just a COVID-related conversation, but how we build as a people together. And so just kudos for the organizers and the members of the organization, because we have to have a collective conversation, and it's really around the same vein is mental health, is financial health, believe it or not. And as a person I live and breathe finance and money and entrepreneurship and hustle and grind and scrappy and MBA and corporate and all of that stuff all mixed into one. I've found that it's always come down to one thing, and that's how we feel about money. And what I've realized coming up humbly in Boston is that people of color have a different relationship with money, and we sometimes make that our identity. And so when we talk about financial health, I think everybody has an opportunity and should, for this conversation, define financial health is really knowing where you're at. No matter where you're starting from, is really understanding what financial assets and debts that you have. And so when we talk about financial health and how I define it, as an investment advisor, as a banker, as a regular person, it's really saying, okay, I know my blood pressure. I know what type of blood is my A, B, or O. I kind of know my credit score, but I don't know what credit score means. I don't know how much is in my bank account. I don't know how much my 401k is. I don't know what 401k means. Yeah. And so when we talk about financial health, it's not necessarily, are you in the markets? Are you driving a nice car, or you got an 850 credit score as your sole indicator of your financial health? It's really understanding the things that you have, no matter how small it is, and understanding that you have to balance it with risk. And so, again, you could start with $2, but when it comes to risk, are you willing to put that up, for your dreams? And if you're not able to kind of track it or do the hard work, whether it be in physical training, then it may not be a good idea. So financial health, I define it. The industry is starting to define it as a financial wellness conversation, and that's what you'll start to see from the big banks, like Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, and things like that. And so that it's, if you want it, the simple answer is health is wealth, and wealth is health.
Got it. Thank you, Kane. Nick.
That was powerful, brother. And always good seeing you too, man. And again, to the group, thank you guys so very much. Bishop, I like my glasses and that tie. Yours, boy, you look good, man. Thank you guys so much. No, Kane really took it out of my mouth, which is amazing. I would maybe just add a few more things. When I look at financial health, I would categorize it in three categories: short, intermediate, and also long term. I think about the short term, I think about, can we survive a pandemic? Short term, which means, do we have 3 to 12 months of living expenses put aside? I think that's just truly important. Many of us are all going through some level of anxiety. And most Americans, 50% for that matter, can't survive a $400 emergency expense. Most of us live paycheck to paycheck. And so if we're unable from a short-term basis to deal with a pandemic or an uncertainty for a time period, that in itself could be devastating. I think number two, I'll look at intermediate is, can we accumulate wealth? And that category is looking at, can you budget your money? Is there a budget that you have? Like Kane said, do you know how much your outgo is? Do you know how much you're spending on Starbucks every single month? Can you produce? Can you make money? Can you live below your means so you have enough money in order to invest? That's how you accumulate wealth. And then number three, long-term, is, can you leave a generational legacy? Can your kids start farther than you have? And most of us, our kids started where we started, because long-term, we didn't leave them with any setup to be better off. So that's where you look at instruments like life insurance, having assets that you can pass down to your kids after you pass away. The idea should be that, like you mentioned, I have 2 baby girls. I know Kane has 2 daughters too. Lexi right behind me, right there. Lexi's 13 and Yana's 2. And when Lexi was 11, that's 2 years ago, I bought her a house. I bought a property in Compton, investment property. We started a little business, and now they actually own that as well. So when you think about setting them up, the idea is that the work that I have to put in today should benefit them. And so when they become 30-something, they have the capacity to go a little bit farther than what dad did. And so I will break it down in those 3 categories.
I love that. Thank you. So you built your empire from the ground up. What allowed you to rise above your circumstances?
Talking to me?
I'm talking to you, Nick.
Look, I think we all have a story. I've been in this business. I've been in finance since I was 18. It was about 18 years ago. I've been in mortgage banking since 2010. My first year, I made $17,000 the full year, which was crazy. I was out of money within 2 months of starting my business.
Wow.
I had to sleep. We were evicted, out of our apartment at that time. My car was repossessed. We were on EBT. It was really tough. But what price will you pay for your dreams? That's the question. And so when I look back at it now, I mean, obviously, we've done a lot better since. If I were to go back to see how I did it, I would first say that I can recall vividly when I made a choice. And there's something so powerful about choosing of who you want to be. When I made a choice, life changed for me, because during the first 18 months, it was hit or miss, and mentally, I'm like, look, if this doesn't go well, I'm gonna just go back and use my degree, and go get a job in W-2. And at that time, my daughter, who's now 13, she was 2, and we didn't really have much, and so it would have been easy for me to have found a reason why failure got me to my W-2 job. But I made a choice. I wasn't going to run. So one, making a choice, I think, was super important for me. I think number 2 is I decided at that time that I would pay the price, whatever price that might be, to be successful. I can recall times in the office that I was in Santa Monica, I literally would sleep in the office for days. My wife was at my mom's house, and I would be going from Monday through Friday in the office.
Wow.
I paid a price. So I look at that, and I can see Relationships were impacted, by that, close friends, because you don't have a lot of time, not to be productive. When you make a choice, when you pay the price. I think number three is I really worked on my mind. We think about, I think of my daughter, Yana, who's now 2, and or even Lexi now, and I really push my kids to have a big imagination and to fantasize. And all kids have that because they don't have any conscious mind created yet of people like us who failed in our lives. And we tell our kids their dreams are too big. So you ask them what they want to do. So I want to go to the moon, Dad. I want to be a doctor. Hey, baby, you can do it. Not a problem, right? Right now, it's not woeful optimism because you can do something once your mind is made up of what you want to be. And so I had to learn, unlearn, and then relearn how I grew up. And the status quo that was placed on me as a young man in the inner city in LA who had, a rough past growing up. And so I really worked on my mind a lot, and that really changed my mindset. And number 4, I probably would end it here, is that I just didn't quit. Even when it got tough, I didn't quit. And so I think if you could think about it, if you make a choice, you pay the price, you work on your mind to have a positive mindset, and you unlearn the bad habits, you relearn the good ones, and then you just never quit. If you put that together, that person cannot lose. It's only a matter of time.
Love it. Love it. Very similar to what Yvette said, with just pursuing your dreams. It's really a choice. You just got to choose to do it. Choose to do it and choose to go for it. All right. So I love it. So now that we've all chosen to get this bag, LA Magazine released an article stating that American billionaires have amassed $434 million to their collective fortunes in the last 2 months. I'm going to repeat that. LA Magazine released an article stating that American billionaires have amassed $434 billion to their collective fortunes in the last 2 months. How can people of color get a piece of that pie? This is for Nick and Kane.
I'll appreciate it, Nick. First off, we've had unprecedented amount of money that's been allocated into the economy. We've never seen this type of money before in American history. So opportunity comes to those that are prepared. And so while I may not have been a part of those transactions in particular, it becomes very obvious on how people are getting the bag. And so I tend to go deep, and maybe Nick, you can kind of go on the higher level. But essentially, they were prepared. They are business owners. They are entrepreneurs. They are paying taxes. Okay. They are paying payroll taxes, and they are employing people. America has always been on the side of the business owner, no matter what type of Democrat, Republican, Whig, whatever, or independent. It always will skew on the side of the corporation. And so what those people who are very entrepreneurial and legitimizing their business and always chasing opportunities, when there's a pot of money sitting out there, it simply will go to the people that are already in line. And so that's kind of, but payroll taxes, having your credit in a situation, but again, trying to push the American economy in the right direction is where they trust the money to be at. So it's no surprise on how they got it or how much they got it. What you think about that, Nick?
Brother, drop the mic. I think that was amazing, man. Yeah, no, I think it's powerful. I think the first thing is, you could track this. Okay, where's the wealth being created? Like Kane said, most wealth is going to be in the equity of your business, which means you have to actually have a business. And then like Kenny said, which means making a choice to be self-employed, which can be tough. Or you can be employed, but work to be building your self-employed that hopefully replaces that W-2 job one day. So I think that's, really important. And then, second, we see the second part of the wealth in asset holdings through real estate. Being able to really understand real estate investing is really important. And I think number three is in stock market. I mean, those are the three areas where most wealth is going to be: equity in your business, real estate holdings, and stock market investing. When it comes to the individual, I would tell them that, the money that you make is always going to be in direct proportion of these three things: the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty in replacing you. That's called the law of compensation. And so I think for anybody who hears this and you're like, I want to chase it, I heard this interview sometime through Kobe, and Kobe had talked about after he retired, he went into like this slight depression because he was trying to figure out the next part of his life. And Kobe said that he was like, what industry could I get in that is the most lucrative? And I want to go and do that. And then Kobe said, you know what? Nah, where's my passion at? How do I go chase that? And he decided to build an entire studio, about the idea of narrating, storytelling. That's what his passion was. And so I think, many times, I see a lot too, being in the financial arena, that, people come to work with me because they want to make a whole lot of money. But if money is what you're chasing, you're never going to find it. It's not the money. People, it's like, the guy who says, put wood on the, put fire on the wood, then I'll add wood. You got to add wood first. Then the fire happens. And so I think that's how excellence looks like. I think we have to, in order to get, you mentioned how Black and brown people take advantage of it. We got to raise our game. We got to raise our game to a whole different level. And we have to understand the game that we're playing, our capacity to play that game, and then becoming replaceable or irreplaceable. I think if you can do those things, no matter what you do, money is a magnet. It will find you. There is over 20, hear me out. There is $20 trillion of liquidity in the marketplace right now.
Wow.
Money will find you when you find your purpose and you chase it with excellence. That would be my response.
Yeah, if I could just tag on to raising your game, that's so critical. It creates the challenge of being a business owner. Business owning is a sport, okay? It is a fun sport. Your first opponent is Uncle Sam, okay? And Uncle Sam got game. I'll tell you that right now. So if you're a competitive person, you're going to have your industry, competitors and things like that. But having a competitor like Uncle Sam, because the thing is that Uncle Sam will become your most fiercest competitor, but then he becomes a mentor, and then he becomes a sponsor. And so that was kind of like, again, looking at it real deep, I would encourage anybody that listens to this webinar or however it gets cut up, is to start paying taxes. Okay? Facts. It is pay your taxes. The game becomes, how do you pay less in taxes? Because if you don't pay any taxes, you don't get on the board. You don't put any wood on the fire. You see what I'm saying? And so it's like trying to go to a basketball game or an amusement park and you saying you want to sneak in, right? You want to sneak in. You're not a part of the ecosystem, right? But when you pay for something, the popcorn costs a grip of money. The hot dogs are going to run you out, right? And you already know that the price of a movie ticket is one price, but you could buy it at the swap meet, or you could buy it at Walmart, or you could buy it at Nordstrom's for a different price. I think, and again, I'm going to go back to what Nick said about that choice, is make a choice to play. And playing means paying, right? Because that's where you want to get the knowledge from. Because once you start to learn the rules of engagement, and you just participate. Now, I'm not saying, try to pay all the most taxes that you can, but make a game out of it and seek professionals that will help you guide in that. Because for me, when I first came out to California, I made $11,000. And I came from a strong accounting school, and I knew everybody that did taxes in the Northeast, but I was a transplant, and I had my guy, as Nick would say, my guy he charged me $400 to do my taxes, but he got me back $1,000. And I said to myself, if I hadn't paid him the $400, I wouldn't have got the $1,000 back out of $11,000. Anybody that can find $1,000 out of $11,000 is clearly a magician. So, that's how I kind of started to wake up. And, but that was a hard 400 that I had to give up. That wasn't something that I could walk in the H&R Block and say, hey, make magic for $50. And I get it that, we may not have a lot, and I didn't have that $400. But again, coming back to understanding where you're at and what you want to do. And another thing is again with the position. So people always ask me, well, how do I start? Similar to, Nick's question, how do you build an empire? Open your mail. Open your mail and read it. Open your bills and read it. Understand how they're taking your money, right? It's part of the game. Embrace it. Read the fine print. Take the time with your money that's coming in as well as the money that's going out. And you'll start to it'll come back to that wellness. You understand where you're at all times. And then when you approach a person like Nick, you understand your risks. And that's another thing but that's a different conversation. But understanding risk, not necessarily understanding your threshold on what you're willing to pay for it. Again, what Nick said, he made a big sacrifice, and I've had the privilege of knowing him for about over 15 years. And just seeing the business cases that he's been doing, whether I've been in academia and seeing him live it, it is truly, I'm honored to be on this whole panel with it. But it's really this group is getting some real good gold in terms of mental health, physical health, financial health. It's just amazing. So thank you again.
Yeah. So I'm a millennial.
Mm-hmm.
My parents are baby boomers. And so they were about my age when they had me and my sister. And I was reading a Forbes article last week or maybe this week that said that in the 1980s, baby boomers had amassed about over 20% of America's net worth by the time they were my age back then. And now, because millennials, so if you're my age, you've already experienced 2 economic downturns in your professional career, that we've now amassed about 3 to 4% of America's net worth. And that from now until about 2030, there will be a transfer of wealth from our parents or our grandparents to us. And so how do millennials and their children get a piece of that pie, a piece of that wealth transfer?
Go ahead, Nick.
One, that's a great question. And that one requires you to really think about it a great deal, because the hurdles that we have are very different than what our grandparents had, without question. By the time at our age now, if you're 33, 34 years old, now at this point in time, you've had more jobs than your parents have in many cases. When you talk about the 1980s, there was still a thing called a pension that you can retire to.
Thanks.
Right? Now it's self-directed, right? And most millennials don't even invest in their 401k in many cases. You think about your parents that you mentioned, were homeowners by the time they were 33. Now the rent cycle has extended, beyond the age because of affordability and because of mounting student loan debt. Right. And so as a millennial, you're paying into Social Security that is going to run out before you even have access to it.
Right.
And then on top of that, this colossal student loan debt. And so we are the most educated, but we are the largest debt burden generation in history. And so this is the reality. And the shit is kind of scary when you think about it. Because even as you think about, Brother Kane mentioned the CARES Act and how much money in the trillions were just pumped in. Well, who's paying for that?
Right.
Well,
Facts.
It's called inflation. That's the hidden tax that's going to end up being the outcome in 20 years.
Right.
And so, we can make this money, but if most of our money is going towards things that we need just to live and survive, it's a really scary time in the future. And so understanding these things, this is the reality. So you say, okay, knowing that, this transfer of wealth, well, by 2030, you're talking about the fact that baby boomers are going to die off and they're going to have these homes that they're going to end up selling off, right? And so the first thing, looking at it on the side of real estate, what happens a lot with us is we don't understand. I'm talking about mainly minorities a great deal because we aren't educated like our counterparts might be because our parents might not have amassed real wealth. And so, I see it all the time where somebody passes away and they leave a home, let's say, to their kids, and they sell the asset.
Quickly.
It's the worst thing you could do. And so I'm a big proponent of, retaining the asset and being able to produce income from it. So you can create cash from it over time and the equity, appreciates. And so I think we have to really get serious about it. And the challenge is nobody's told us this. We said, hey, go to school, become a psychologist, become a doctor, become an engineer, you'll be just fine. That's Bishop, I'm sorry, but that's bullshit. Okay? It's not the reality. And the reality is that nobody's coming for us. Nobody's coming for millennials. And so if you understand this, you say, okay, if I'm on my own, what do I need to do? I need to unlearn what I've been taught. Going to school and getting a degree, you're going to be just like the high school dropout on the unemployment line. Okay? We're seeing it right now. I've had to let go of, people at this time and who I hate to do it, and they got MBAs. They work for me. They did work for me. I let them go. Right? And so you have to unlearn what you've been taught. It's not the truth. That's the first thing I would tell you, how to go and get it. And we now have to re-educate ourselves and then re-educate our kids and help them understand, how to make money. Right? And there's 3 ways you can really make money. You can trade time for money, which most of us do. The second phase to do it is you could hopefully have saved some money and use that money to invest to make money. Or number 3, you find multiple streams of income that are going to allow you to always do well. And so I think to answer your question, we have to first get real with ourselves. Number 2, we have to educate ourselves and our kids. Number 3, I really think we have to think about, Kane, you're right, man. There's so much correlation between, mental health, financial health, because a lot of times our insecurities create more debt for us too.
Absolutely.
If you don't love yourself, right, you might think buying that car might make you feel good.
Yep.
Or that bag, or that trip, or that Instagram highlight reel that you had to put on credit card to go to Miami to for the weekend, right? Because you're trying to fill a void in something that can't be filled with a car. So self-care is super important. So talking about, what you say into your mind, unpacking those things that created self-doubt in your mind are a part of how you build wealth. Because now if you don't need those things, without it, now you can live more prudent and you can live below your means. And so I think that's really important too, is how we love ourselves and reconditioning our mind, super important. And then I think we get ourselves on an actual budget so we can start saving some money and say, okay, let me start learning about real estate, about the stock market. Let me start a secondary business, something that's going to supplement my income. And let me use that to start building appreciable assets that are going to grow for me. I think if we focus on those things, we'll give ourselves a chance to survive.
Right on. I can't say any more to that.
Cool. Well, Kane, what financial vehicles are important for millennials to secure generational wealth? I think Nick hit on some of them.
Yes. The first thing, and this is probably going to be the most boring part of this webinar, is that actually first again stopping. Okay, how much money do I have in the bank account? Am I working? Right? Is really just stopping. I believe that, again, in the tie into the last question, um, millennials have a different compass when it comes to how they want to spend their money and what influences them to do that. And so obviously, you know, I call myself Generation X with millennial tendencies, but it is it's the things that influence us. And so again, open your mail. If you don't know what it is, don't go to the internet, go to a dictionary. Okay, that's the first thing. But and you'll start to learn about the vehicles and what type of vehicles that you want in your portfolio. You want real estate, you want insurance, you want investments, you want a side hustle, you want a job, you want something that's creating money automatically. And so when you start to make that breath, but there's two things that I want to approach this question is first, the way to build wealth is first protecting what you have. And so while it may not be interesting or sexy or people are not talking about it, you got to take care of home first. And that means protecting what you have. If you only make $40,000-$30,000 a year, make sure you protect that for your next generation. You don't have to buy a $2 million life insurance policy, when you first start working. But you should buy something to cover it. That way your parents don't have to pay for you, because parents are burdened with our student debt. They're burdened with they barely made it out of the last recession, and they don't have the reserves that we have. And so it actually can be very devastating for us to not have insurance. And so I encourage as many young people to just get insurance. In fact, it actually is the start of your investments. Again, when you're working with Uncle Sam, you can use that as expenses. You can also use it as the first person that says yes to your loan for a business or a house. And there's creative, ways to do that, with guys like Nick and myself and people who want to help you move forward with your financial life. But you, again, have to put wood on the fire, invest in yourself. The next thing that I would encourage people to do, the vehicle, right? This is only vehicle, but this is not I got insurance policy, I'm all that, and I have this great, lifestyle. The second thing is a trust, is understanding if you are even blessed to have somebody that's going to bestow some wealth upon you, whether it be a $30,000 house in Mississippi or, 800 square feet on Wall Street. It is something that you don't want to put it in your personal name. You actually want to put it into a trust. And that's where I'm not a trust professional, but what that does is it sets you apart. So now you have yourself that's working for your wealth, and then you have a default business entity that's working for you as well. And so again, I'm gonna take it back to my Boston days, whereas I co-signed for my sister's 2007 Honda Civic. That wasn't necessarily, we say it now, we would never do that, but that's your sister. Had I had a trust or some other trust specifically, maybe the trust could have bought the car. The trust would have had its own credit. And that's somebody, your trust is somebody that it now becomes your twin on who you can bank off of and who you can and share expenses with, and pay taxes together. When your friends and family don't want to believe in you, you have your trust. And that's pun intended, because you are the executor, and you decide how the business is running. So those are the things that I've learned being in investment management from Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, Prudential, is the people who have these vehicles already installed are literally maybe 35 years ahead of us at the gate. So that's what I would, if you're really asking an investment manager, how does how do you start wealth, is protect what you have with some insurance that builds a cash value, right? Not the term insurance, but that's, again, understanding the difference. But again, trying to find a way to get something in a trust. And that's when you would talk to, somebody like putting in real estate or putting your business in a trust and things like that. So that's what I would have to say to the millennials, while things are very inexpensive, pennies on the dollar.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so now I know I got to get my mind right, and I know what vehicles to buy into and use, which means I got to get about this budget, and I got to get comfortable with this budget, and I got to be looking at this budget consistently, so I'm not nervous when I'm looking at these dollars that's either stacking or leaving my account. And then once I'm comfortable with that and I'm living below my means, then I have the opportunity to tap into everything that you all mentioned: real estate, stock market, insurance, investing. And so y'all have given us some gems. And so I want you to drop in the chat where we can find you. If we are, for those of us on the call who are there, I'm one who chose about 5 years ago to live way, way, way below my means. If you knew some of the things that I did, I right now live in a 200 square foot house so that I can put money into my business and the community organizations that I support. And so I have done everything that you all have said. I had to unlearn, I learned, and then I implemented what I learned so that I can build generational wealth. Because a lot of people in my family were like, Nick, once they got the chance to sell grandma's property, they sold it. They didn't think about us millennials who were in kindergarten at that time, or who were in elementary school or high school, right? They weren't thinking about the future of the family. They were thinking about the now. And so I have the opportunity and the space, now that I live below my means, to really think beyond me, even though I don't have any children, but really understanding, as Kane brought up, estate planning, and that if I don't have children, there are other ways I can leave it, and other places I can leave things. So thank you, Nick, and thank you, Kane, for really giving us the knowledge that will position us for, who knows, the next pandemic that'll come, the next downturn, the next crisis. Some of us have been through my grandmother was born in 1930s. So she was born in the Depression, right? She's experienced the recession and now COVID. And she's chilling. And so you all have given us the knowledge for me to be like my grandmother, to be at 80 something, if we experience another crisis, to just be chilling. And so thank you for that. I know we may have some questions in the chat, and we may have some questions for people. I think everybody on this webinar, all of our speakers, have mentioned mindset and the importance of mindset when it comes to professional development, health, wealth, mental health, and financial health. Everyone mentioned that you have to have the right mindset and be committed and make a choice. So I know a lot of what has to do with mindset is what you consume, what you watch, what you read. So if everyone can maybe tell us, I'm gonna start with Yvette. I'm gonna go to the top of our lineup. You could just tell me what book you're reading or the last book you read. So some people on this call could know how important it is to just stay kind of read up, and a lot of good information. People just leave it in a book. So Yvette, tell us, what book are you reading?
Essentialism, and I put it in the chat. I'm reading Essentialism because I'm trying to get how Kane and Nick was talking. I'm trying to bring everything down to the bare minimum in my head, the things that I crave and the things that I want, and really prioritizing things. So Essentialism so far has been my best, but my favorite book is The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins, and it's helped me so much with anti-procrastination, which was my world, in getting things done. So I put those, and I put another book in there. Those are the 3 that I would suggest.
Good. Okay, Ken, what book are you reading?
Me personally, I'm not much of a reader, more of an audiobook type guy. But and more than books, I love to listen to Gary Vee. So that's where I get a lot of my mindset and business information.
Cool. Dr. Erica, what you reading?
I'm actually rereading The Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Myers, and then 21 Seconds to Change Your World.
Love it. Dr. Hanson, what you reading?
I'm academia things that people probably wouldn't be interested in, like psychoanalytic stuff. I mean, I finished a book during the pandemic about theta healing, so nothing exciting for anyone.
Okay. Nick, what you reading? Is Nick still with us? Okay. Oh, there we go.
The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murray. This book was written in the 1960s, and it is the best book ever written from a simplistic language of the subconscious mind. And if you can learn the power of your own mind, it will probably be the greatest revelation you've ever experienced beyond the Bible. And so it's a book that I've had for years. I've read it now maybe 15 times. It's more of a college course than it is an actual book for me, but it's an amazing book.
Okay, thank you. Kane, what you reading?
You on mute, bro.
Uh-oh.
He's mute.
Thank you. Like the doctor said, I am, reading a lot of academia stuff because I've taken on a new role as a community development financial institution managing director. And so I am in charge of helping people get money and from start to finish. So I've taken a crash course in banking. So a lot of government information. I've been reading The Hill a lot lately, which is a DC publication. So just staying abreast of the financial stuff. But the other thing that I have, my recent listen from Audible has been The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And that was a book that, again, when we talk about just stopping and being present, you got to give yourself that opportunity to just stop. And that's the first thing you can do. Don't wait for a tragedy to happen, for you to be down and out. There's an opportunity that you can control to just stop, listen to your body, let the universe and the vibes tell you what's the next move and things like that. And this particular book helped me personally because I have a lot of anxiety when it comes to, dealing with, the things that affect us on a day-to-day basis.
Uh-oh, we lost your sound, Kane.
Thank you, my hand hit it, to, how people are affected by all kinds of stuff. So it's important, again, going back to health is wealth and wealth is health.
Thank you. All right, Daniel, take it away.
All right, Zanetta Smith, MSW, the great moderator. We appreciate you and the time that you put into ensuring that this panel was successful and that it had rich content. So I really appreciate it. Before I give my last remarks, and then I'll turn it over to our Chief Thought Officer, I'm reading a book called American Judaism. It's not an exciting book, it's very boring, but it has a lot of good content. It's really good to understand the migration and how they built wealth. And so I definitely would recommend for you all to pick it up. It takes quite a while to get through it because you've got to kind of read it in bite-sized portions, but definitely I would encourage you all to pick it up. Last thing that I'll mention, I just want to thank the panel. Thank you so much. They say that, your network is your net worth. And so I feel rich today. I feel wealthy because I have so many incredible people that I have the good fortune to call friends, and to be able to come on this panel and just share your knowledge. I really appreciate it. And so one thing that I'll just kind of piggyback on, just really the nexus and the central theme of this whole topic was understanding who you are and making those informed decisions. And so they say that the illiterate of the future are those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And so today we learned a lot. And so I was taking copious notes. And so I just want to give you all the toolkit that I took away. And so if you want to be successful, from what I've gathered, you're going to need these few things. You're going to need God. You're going to need a basketball. You're going to need wood, a heart rate monitor app, exercise bike, a little bit of common sense, fire, a good diet, and a mail opener to open your mail. And last but not least, pay your taxes. So thank you all for those nuggets and those gems. I'll be sure to write a blog about this experience that you can find on ezrock.org. I want to thank my wife, who is also the co-founder and chief administrative officer. She's in the background, but I just want to thank and appreciate her for the time that she's put in to make this dream a reality. And so with that being said, thanks again to the panel, each and every one of you. I really appreciate you. I am indebted. And so thank you so much for this wonderful experience. And so just really quick, if you would, because I know we are over time. We're supposed to end at 7:30, but it got so good. Brother Shahid Ali Il, our other co-founder and chief thought officer, would you give just a quick closing remarks for maybe a minute or two? And you're on mute, just to let you know ahead of time.
Oh man, praise the Most High, man, for all of you. Everybody's on a panel. I'm a big humanitarian. I love humanity, and like they say, when man starts studying himself, then he'll have the love for everybody else's culture and everything. But I love the power of what you brought. All of you, from health, wellness, excellent moderation. It was something that one of my mentors had told me a long time ago. He said, a single parent can raise 5 children, but in times 5 children can't even retire one single parent. And basically when they was talking about health and wellness, we have to kind of really look out for the future. We might not see it in our time, but it's excellent really on the foundation. And Kane Nicholas, man, he's my financial planner. And, he makes me bite the bullet, on certain things that I have to do. That internal whip come out, he gets you in place and help you understand, like, man, we're not going to be here too much longer. And so I give honors to you, and I give honors to all the speakers. I learned so much. And I appreciate y'all. This Ezrock Brain Trust Association is for humanity. It's not really for anything personal. It's things that no matter what walk of life you come from and what ideology you have, now it's a time to show it in the form of social duty. So I give all of you honors, in all your studies, and make sure you put everything on your link, on our links, that we can get into, keep in touch with you. All right. I appreciate you all. Thanks.
Thank you, Brother Shahid. Really appreciate the closing remarks. And so I don't want to prolong the evening, but once again, thank you to the panel. Zanetta, you killed it. Appreciate it. You kept us all in line. And so just thank you, thank you, thank you. It's streamed on Facebook, YouTube. You can view it again. You can go to our website. And as always, you can't rely on anything or anyone to keep you but God. So keep God first in everything that you do. And with that being said, may the peace of God be with you, and have a wonderful evening.
Bye.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.